Some men are never meant to be challenged. And some women are too fearless to care. This is a story about defiance, danger, and the kind of love that refuses to be tamed. A story about a waitress who dared to stand her ground, and the man who ruled an empire built on fear, until she made him remember what it felt like to be human. The moment Elena Brooks realized she'd made a terrible mistake, it was already too late to take it back. Her hand was still raised, palm out, fingers steady despite the thunder of her heartbeat in her ears. The entire restaurant had gone silent. Not the comfortable quiet of elegant dining, but the suffocating hush that falls when everyone knows violence is about to unfold and no one wants to be the first to move. She stood between two men who could break her without effort. Behind her, drunk and swaying, was a patron who'd gotten too loud, too handsy with one of the younger servers. In front of her, cold-eyed and utterly still, was the enforcer, a mountain of a man in a dark suit whose hand had been reaching for something beneath his jacket before Elena stepped into his path. And beyond him, in the corner booth beneath the amber glow of the Tiffany lamp, sat the man everyone whispered about but no one dared name out loud. Vincenzo De Luca. She'd noticed him the moment he walked in 2 hours ago. It was impossible not to. The restaurant, Rossi's, catered to wealthy clients, politicians, old money families who appreciated discretion and white tablecloths. But when Vincenzo entered, the energy shifted like a barometric drop before a storm. Conversations didn't stop, but they lowered. Glances didn't linger, but they tracked him with peripheral precision. He was 36, she'd heard someone whisper once. Italian. Dangerous in ways that made the word itself feel insufficient. He wore his power like a second skin, tailored suits that cost more than she made in 6 months, dark hair that fell back from a face too striking to be merely handsome. Tattoos traced along his neck, disappearing beneath his collar. More marked his hands, symbols and script in a language she didn't recognize but understood instinctively. They were a record, a map of loyalty and violence he never had to explain. He always sat in the same booth, always ordered the same thing, and he always watched. Tonight he'd been watching her. Elena had felt the weight of his gaze as she moved between tables, carrying trays of pasta and wine, laughing with regulars, deflecting the occasional flirtation with practiced ease. She was good at her job. Quick-witted, efficient, the kind of waitress who remembered your order and your name and made you feel like you mattered even when you didn't tip well. At 24, she'd worked at Rossi's for 3 years, pulling double shifts to keep her cramped apartment and pay off debts that weren't even hers. She'd learned to keep her chin high and her heart locked away. She'd learned that being underestimated was sometimes an advantage. But she'd never learned when to keep her mouth shut. Hello, beautiful souls. Welcome back to the channel. Before we dive into this intense journey tonight, I want to know, where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. I love seeing how far these stories travel. And hey, how are you doing today? Really, I hope you're taking care of yourself. Now, if you haven't already subscribed to the channel, please do that right now. Hit that subscribe button because you don't want to miss the stories we have coming. Trust me, they only get better from here. And if you're already part of this family, thank you. You're the reason these stories come alive. The drunk patron had grabbed Sophie, the new girl, barely 21 and still learning how to dodge unwanted hands. Elena had stepped in smoothly, redirecting him with a smile that didn't reach her eyes, offering free coffee, trying to de-escalate. That's when the enforcer appeared. Vincenzo's man. Built like a bulldozer, with eyes like chips of flint. He hadn't said a word, just moved toward the drunk patron with the inevitability of an avalanche. The message was clear. This establishment was under protection. Disturbances would be handled. But the way he was about to handle it, the cold certainty in his expression, the hand reaching beneath his jacket, Elena knew this would end with blood on the marble floors and police asking questions no one would answer. So she stepped between them. Stop! Her voice came out steadier than she felt. He's leaving, aren't you? She directed that last part at the drunk, who was suddenly very sober, eyes wide, nodding frantically as he stumbled toward the door. The enforcer hadn't moved. Hadn't acknowledged her at all. His hand was still hovering near whatever weapon he carried, and his eyes had shifted past her, toward the corner booth, waiting for orders. That's when Elena made her second mistake. She turned to face Vincenzo De Luca directly. He sat perfectly still, one hand resting on the table beside an untouched glass of wine, the other out of sight beneath the table. His expression was unreadable, a mask of calm that somehow felt more threatening than rage. Those piercing eyes, dark and fathomless, fixed on her with an intensity that made her skin prickle. The smart thing would have been to lower her gaze. Apologize. Step aside. Instead, Elena lifted her chin and held his stare. Don't you dare me, she said quietly, but every word carried in the silence. Not in here. Not tonight. She wasn't even sure what she meant. Don't dare to hurt someone in her restaurant. Don't dare to test her courage. Don't dare to make her back down when she'd already committed. The room held its breath. Then Vincenzo De Luca did something no one expected. He laughed. Not cruelly. Not mockingly. But with genuine surprise, a sound rusty with disuse, as if he'd forgotten what amusement felt like. His lips curved into something that might have been a smile if it had reached his eyes. He gestured, a subtle movement of his hand, and the enforcer stepped back immediately. Vincenzo's gaze never left Elena's face. Interesting, he murmured, his voice low and accented, carrying an edge of something she couldn't name. Very interesting. Then he stood, dropped enough cash on the table to cover his bill 3 times over, and walked out into the rain-slick night. Elena's knees didn't start shaking until after he was gone. What had she just done? And why did she feel like she'd just set something irreversible into motion? The walk home took Elena through streets that glistened with fresh rain, past closed storefronts and the occasional late-night bodega still glowing with fluorescent light. She pulled her jacket tighter against the October chill, her sneakers splashing through shallow puddles that reflected the neon signs above. At nearly 2 in the morning, the city showed its other face, the one tourists never photographed. Homeless men huddled in doorways. Distant sirens wailed. Somewhere a dog barked endlessly into the night. Elena had lived in this sprawling American city her entire life, and she'd learned its rhythms like a second heartbeat. Which streets to avoid after dark. Which subway cars to skip. How to walk with confidence even when fear thrummed beneath her skin. How to be invisible when necessary, and when to stand her ground. Tonight, she'd stood her ground against a man who could have erased her from existence with a single nod. Her hands were still trembling when she climbed the 3 flights of stairs to her apartment, a cramped studio in a building that had seen better decades. The radiator clanged and hissed. The neighbors above her fought in muffled shouts. The window overlooking the fire escape had a crack she'd covered with packing tape. But it was hers. Paid for with every double shift, every sore foot, every smile she'd forced for customers who treated her like part of the furniture. Elena dropped her keys on the counter that doubled as her dining table, and collapsed onto the futon that served as both couch and bed. She should eat something. Should shower. Should do anything other than replay the moment she'd locked eyes with Vincenzo De Luca and told him, of all the reckless things, don't you dare me. What had she been thinking? She hadn't been thinking. That was the problem. She'd seen Sophie's frightened face, seen the enforcer reaching for his weapon, and her body had moved before her brain could stop it. Elena had spent her entire life watching people get hurt because no one stepped in. Because everyone looked away. Because it was safer not to get involved. Her phone buzzed. Text from Sophie. Are you okay? That was the bravest thing I've ever seen. Also the craziest. Thank you. Elena smiled despite herself and typed back. I'm fine. You okay? Get home safe. Yes. My brother picked me up. Seriously, thank you. I thought that guy was going to. Don't worry about it. See you tomorrow. Elena set the phone down and stared at the water-stained ceiling. Sophie was a good kid. 21, community college student, working at Rossi's to pay tuition. She reminded Elena of herself 4 years ago, still believing that hard work and determination could overcome anything. Still naive enough to think the world was fundamentally fair. Life had taught Elena differently. She'd grown up in the foster system after her mother died when Elena was 7. Overdose, they'd told her later, when she was old enough to understand. Her father had never been in the picture. So Elena had bounced between homes, some better than others, learning early that the only person she could truly rely on was herself. She'd aged out of the system at 18 with nothing but a high school diploma and a fierce determination not to become another statistic. She'd worked retail, fast food, overnight shifts at a warehouse, whatever it took. When she landed the job at Rossi's 3 years ago, it had felt like progress. The money was better. The clientele tipped well if you were charming. She was good at charming. The debts she was paying off belonged to her ex-boyfriend, Travis. Or rather, debts he'd left her holding when he disappeared 8 months ago. He'd convinced her to co-sign on loans, put bills in her name, trust him. She'd been stupid enough to believe someone actually cared about her. When the collectors came calling, Travis was long gone, and Elena was left with $17,000 of debt that wasn't even hers. So she worked double shifts, saved every penny, ate ramen and day-old bread, and slowly, painfully, climbed out of the hole someone else had dug for her. She didn't date anymore. Didn't trust anyone enough to let them close. Her co-workers at Rossi's were friendly, but she kept them at arm's length. She had one real friend, Maya, who worked as a nurse at the hospital downtown. They'd met in a self-defense class 2 years ago and bonded over cheap wine and shared stories of survival. Maya was always telling Elena she needed to open up more, let people in, stop treating life like a series of shifts to endure. But opening up meant vulnerability. And vulnerability meant getting hurt. Elena had been hurt enough. She finally dragged herself to the shower, letting hot water wash away the smell of garlic and wine and fear. When she closed her eyes, she saw Vincenzo's face. The sharp angles of his jaw. The tattoos curling up his neck. The way he'd looked at her, not with anger, but with something else. Curiosity, maybe. Or recognition. Like he saw something in her that surprised him. She shook her head, turned off the water, and wrapped herself in a towel that had seen better days. She was reading too much into it. Men like Vincenzo De Luca didn't care about waitresses except as part of the scenery. She'd interfered with his enforcer's work, sure, but he'd probably found it amusing in the moment and would forget about it by morning. It was over. She'd go back to work tomorrow, and everything would return to normal. Except normal shattered 2 nights later when Vincenzo De Luca walked into Rossi's again, and sat in the same corner booth, and asked for her section. Elena was in the middle of taking orders from a table of businessmen when Marco, the floor manager, appeared at her elbow. Marco was 50-something, Italian-born, with a precisely trimmed mustache and an obsession with efficiency. He rarely got flustered. Tonight he looked flustered. "Elena," he said quietly, urgently. "Mr. De Luca has requested you specifically." Her stomach dropped. "What?" "Corner booth. He asked if you were working tonight. When I said yes, he said he wants you to serve him. No one else." Marco's eyes were worried. "Did something happen the other night?" "He's not upset, is he?" "No," Elena said quickly. "At least I don't think so. He left a big tip." "Then why?" Marco shook his head. "Never mind. Just go. And Elena, whatever he wants, he gets." Understood. She understood perfectly. She finished with the businessmen, put their order in with the kitchen, and took a steadying breath before approaching the corner booth. Vincenzo sat exactly as he had before. Same posture, same expensive suit, same air of controlled power. But tonight, when his eyes met hers, there was something different in them. An intentness. A focus that made her feel like she was the only person in the room. "Good evening," Elena said, keeping her voice professional. "Can I start you with something to drink?" "Chianti," he said. His accent made the word sound like music. "The 2015. She nodded, started to turn. "And Elena." She froze. He knew her name. Of course he knew her name. Men like him made it their business to know things. "Yes." I'd like you to tell me, he said slowly, what you meant the other night. I'm sorry. When you said, don't you dare me. His head tilted slightly, studying her. What exactly were you daring me not to do? Her heart hammered. This was it. This was where she found out if her moment of courage would cost her everything. But Elena had never been good at backing down. I was daring you, she said carefully, not to make me regret standing up for what was right. Something flickered in his expression. Not anger. Something softer. Something almost like approval. And if I had, he asked. If I'd told my man to continue, then I would have regretted it, Elena said honestly. But I still would have done it. The silence stretched between them, taut and electric. Then Vincenzo smiled. Not the rusty laugh from before, but a genuine smile that transformed his face, making him look younger, almost boyish. Fearless, he murmured almost to himself. Bring me the wine, Elena. And then, when you have a moment, I'd like to hear why someone as intelligent as you is working double shifts in a restaurant when you could be doing anything else. She stared at him. How do you know I work double shifts? His smile widened just slightly. I make it my business to know things. Especially about people who interest me. He dismissed her with a slight nod, returning his attention to the menu as if he hadn't just appended her entire world. Elena walked back to the bar in a daze. Vincenzo De Luca found her interesting. The most dangerous man in the city wanted to know about her life. And the terrifying part, the part that made her hands shake as she poured his wine, was that some reckless piece of her wanted to tell him. The night stretched long and strange after that. Elena brought Vincenzo his wine, set it down with steady hands despite the chaos in her chest, and tried to retreat to her other tables. But the restaurant wasn't busy enough to justify avoiding him. Every time she passed, she felt the weight of his attention. Every time she looked up he was watching. Not leering. Not threatening. Just watching, with that same intense focus that made her feel simultaneously exposed and seen in a way she'd never experienced before. Around midnight the dinner crowd thinned. Most of her tables had cleared out, leaving just a few lingering conversations over espresso and dessert. Marco caught her eye and nodded toward Vincenzo's booth. The message was clear. He'd been nursing the same glass of wine for 2 hours. Either take his order or find out what he actually wanted. Elena approached the booth with her notepad ready, her professional smile in place. Have you decided on dinner? She asked. Sit down, Vincenzo said. I'm working. I own a third of this restaurant, he said calmly. Sit down. Elena's breath caught. She hadn't known that. But it made sense. Rossi's operated in a gray zone, successful enough to attract wealth, discreet enough to cater to people who valued privacy. Of course someone like Vincenzo had a stake in it. She glanced at Marco, who was studiously looking anywhere else. He sat close. Vincenzo was even more striking. The tattoos on his hands were intricate, detailed work that spoke of hours under the needle. Script in Italian wound around his knuckles. A saint's face graced his thumb. His nails were clean, manicured. Hands that could sign death warrants or cradle something precious with equal ease. Tell me about the debts, he said. Elena's blood went cold. Excuse me. $17,000, Vincenzo continued. His tone conversational. Credit cards, personal loans, all in your name. None of them yours. A man named Travis Whitmore. Disappeared 8 months ago. You're paying $300 a week to collection agencies, which is why you work 70-hour weeks and live in an apartment that should be condemned. Terror and fury warred in her chest. You investigated me. I told you. I learn about people who interest me. You have no right. Her voice shook, but not with fear. With rage. My life is none of your business. You made it my business, Vincenzo said, leaning forward slightly. When you stepped between my man and his target. When you looked me in the eye and dared me. Do you understand how rare that is? How many people in this city would rather cut out their own tongue than speak to me the way you did? Maybe they're smarter than me. Maybe they're more afraid. His eyes searched hers. But you're afraid too. Can see it. You're just brave enough not to let it stop you. Elena's hands clenched in her lap. She should stand up. Look away. Tell him to leave her alone. But something kept her pinned there, something in the way he looked at her. Like she was a puzzle he needed to solve. Like she mattered. What do you want from me? She asked quietly. Vincenzo was silent for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was softer, almost thoughtful. I want to know why you did it. You don't know me. You owe me nothing. That drunk could have turned violent. My man could have hurt you for interfering. But you stepped in anyway. Why? Elena met his gaze directly. Because it was the right thing to do. The right thing, he repeated, and something flickered across his face. Pain maybe. Or longing. Do you know what I do, Elena? What I am? I know enough. Then you know there's nothing right about my world. Nothing good. It's built on fear and blood and power. People obey because the cost of defiance is too high. He paused. And then you, this fearless waitress with fire in her eyes, tell me don't you dare me. And I realize I can't remember the last time someone surprised me. The air between them felt charged, electric. Elena's heart was racing, but not entirely with fear anymore. There was something else. Something dangerous and intoxicating. I don't want trouble, she said. Too late. But he smiled when he said it. The debts. I can make them disappear. No. His eyebrows rose. No. I don't want your money. I don't want to owe you. You wouldn't owe me anything. That's not how it works, Elena said sharply. Men like you don't do favors without expecting something back. I've learned that lesson already. Vincenzo studied her for a long moment, then nodded slowly. Fair enough. Then let me make you a different offer. Have dinner with me. A real dinner, not here. Somewhere you choose. Let me get to know the woman brave enough to challenge me. Why? Elena demanded. I'm nobody. I'm a waitress with debts and a crappy apartment. What could you possibly want with me? Maybe, Vincenzo said quietly. I want to remember what it's like to talk to someone who isn't afraid to tell me the truth. Someone who doesn't want something from me. Someone real. The vulnerability in those words startled her. For just a moment, the mask slipped, and she saw beneath the dangerous crime boss to the man underneath. A man who seemed desperately, achingly lonely. It should have been easy to say no. Smart to say no. Safe to say no. One dinner, Elena heard herself say. Somewhere public. And you answer my questions honestly. Deal. He extended his hand across the table. She hesitated, then shook it. His grip was firm, warm, and the contact sent a shiver up her arm that had nothing to do with fear. That's when the front door exploded inward. 3 men burst into the restaurant, guns drawn. They weren't police. They moved with military precision, faces covered with black masks, weapons trained on Vincenzo's booth. Nobody move, the lead man shouted. The restaurant erupted into chaos. Customers screamed, dove under tables. Marco was already reaching for the phone. And Vincenzo's enforcer, the same massive man from 2 nights ago, materialized from somewhere near the kitchen. His own weapon appearing in his hand. But he was too far away, across the dining room, blocked by panicking customers. The lead gunman advanced on Vincenzo's booth, finger on the trigger. Message from the Calvetti family, he snarled. Your time is up, De Luca. Everything slowed down. Elena saw the man's finger tightening. Saw Vincenzo's hand moving beneath the table, too slow. Saw the angle of the gun, aimed not at Vincenzo's head but lower, center mass, a kill shot. And once again, her body moved before her brain could stop it. She grabbed the wine bottle from the table and swung it with all her strength into the gunman's wrist. Glass shattered. Wine exploded across the white tablecloth. The gun discharged, deafening in the enclosed space, but the bullet went wide, slamming into the wall behind Vincenzo's head. Then Vincenzo was moving, fast as a striking snake. He was out of the booth, the gunman's arm twisted at an unnatural angle, The man's face slammed against the table hard enough to crack bone. The gun clattered to the floor. The enforcer reached the other two gunmen. Shots fired. Someone screamed. And Vincenzo's hand closed around Elena's wrist, pulling her down behind the booth as bullets tore through the air where she'd been standing. "Stay down," he ordered, his body shielding hers, and for the first time since she'd met him, she heard genuine fear in his voice. But not for himself. For her. The firefight lasted less than 30 seconds. When it was over, 2 of the gunmen were on the floor, disarmed and bleeding. The third was gone, fled into the night. Sirens wailed in the distance, growing closer. Vincenzo pulled Elena to her feet, his hands on her shoulders, his eyes scanning her frantically. "Are you hurt? Did they touch you?" "I'm fine," she managed, though she was shaking violently now. "I'm okay." "You could have been killed," he said, and his voice was raw. "What were you thinking?" "I was thinking," Elena said, meeting his eyes, "that I wasn't going to watch someone die if I could stop it." Something profound shifted in Vincenzo's expression. He stared at her like she was something precious and terrifying and completely impossible. Then Marco was there, pale and stammering, and the enforcer was hauling the gunman toward a back exit, and Vincenzo was giving orders in rapid Italian, his hand never leaving Elena's arm. "She goes with you," he told the enforcer. "Safe house. Now." "What?" "No," Elena protested. "I'm not going anywhere." "You just attacked a Calvetti soldier," Vincenzo said flatly. "You saved my life. Do you understand what that means? They'll come for you. To punish you. To punish me through you." His grip tightened. "I won't let that happen. You can't just kidnap me. I'm protecting you." His eyes burned into hers. "Please, Elena. For once, don't fight me. Let me keep you safe." The sirens were right outside now. Red and blue lights strobed through the windows. Elena looked at the shattered glass, the blood on the floor, the terror on her co-workers' faces. Looked at Vincenzo, this dangerous man who was begging her to trust him, and realized her entire life had just changed forever. Because she'd saved a Mafia boss. And now there was no going back. "Okay," she whispered. Vincenzo's relief was palpable. He nodded to his enforcer, who moved to Elena's side. "I'll handle the police," Vincenzo said. "Marco will cover for you. You were in the back when it happened. You saw nothing. In a few hours, when it's safe, I'll come for you myself. Promise." Elena didn't know why that mattered, but it did. Vincenzo's hand came up, cupping her face with surprising gentleness. "I promise. You saved my life tonight, fearless girl. Now let me save yours." Then he was pushing her toward the back exit, and the enforcer was guiding her out into the rain-slick alley, and Elena's normal life was disappearing behind her like smoke. All because she'd dared to be brave. All because she'd looked into the eyes of a dangerous man and refused to look away. Now she was part of his world. And she had no idea if she'd survive it. The safe house wasn't what Elena expected. She'd imagined something from a movie, dingy and industrial, all concrete and surveillance monitors. Instead, the enforcer, who'd introduced himself tersely as Dante, drove her to a high-rise overlooking the river. The apartment he led her to was on the 20th floor, all floor-to-ceiling windows and modern furniture, the kind of place that appeared in architecture magazines. "Make yourself comfortable," Dante said, his voice a low rumble. He was even more intimidating up close, built like a tank with a scar bisecting his left eyebrow. But his tone wasn't unkind. "Kitchen's stocked. Don't go near the windows. Don't open the door for anyone but Mr. De Luca. I'll be outside." Then he left her alone in the silent apartment, and the reality of what had just happened crashed over Elena like a wave. She'd attacked an armed man with a wine bottle. She'd saved a Mafia boss. People had been shot right in front of her. Her legs gave out, and she sank onto the leather couch, hands shaking so badly she had to clench them together. The adrenaline was draining away, leaving her hollow and terrified. What had she done? What had she been thinking? But she knew what she'd been thinking. The same thing she always thought when she saw someone in danger. That someone had to help. That standing by was the same as being complicit. That even if it was stupid and reckless, doing nothing was worse. Her phone buzzed. She pulled it from her pocket with trembling fingers. Maya had texted. Just saw the news. Shooting at Rossi's. Are you okay? Please tell me you weren't working tonight. Elena stared at the message. What could she possibly say? That she was fine but currently hiding in a luxury apartment because she'd saved a crime lord's life and now his enemies wanted her dead. She typed back. I'm safe. Can't talk right now. I'll call you tomorrow. Promise I'm okay. It wasn't entirely a lie. She stood, paced the apartment, trying to calm her racing heart. The place was immaculate, decorated in shades of gray and cream with abstract art on the walls. The kitchen gleamed with stainless steel appliances. The bedroom, when she peeked inside, had a king-sized bed with hotel-quality linens. Whose place was this? Did Vincenzo own it? Did he bring other people here when they needed protection? Did he bring women here? Elena shut down that thought immediately. It didn't matter. She was here because of circumstance, nothing more. Once the danger passed, she'd go back to her cramped studio and her double shifts and her careful, controlled life. Except her life had never actually been controlled, had it? She'd always been one crisis away from catastrophe, one bad decision away from disaster. At least now she knew what the danger looked like. She found herself standing at the windows despite Dante's warning, looking out at the city sprawled below. From this height it looked almost beautiful. The lights like scattered jewels, the river a dark ribbon reflecting neon and moonlight. Somewhere down there, Vincenzo was dealing with police, cleaning up the mess, protecting his empire. Protecting her. The thought sent a confusing rush of warmth through her chest. She didn't know what time it was when she heard the door open. Late. Past 3 in the morning, probably. She'd been dozing on the couch, exhausted but too wired to actually sleep. Vincenzo walked in, and Elena's breath caught. He'd ditched the suit jacket. His white shirt was rolled up at the sleeves, revealing more tattoos that traced up his forearms. There was blood on his collar. Not his, she thought. Oh. His hair was disheveled, like he'd been running his hands through it. He looked tired, the kind of bone-deep exhaustion that came from holding everything together through sheer will. But when he saw her, relief flooded his features. You're okay, he said. You promised you'd come. Elena stood, suddenly uncertain. I didn't think you actually would. I always keep my promises. Vincenzo closed the distance between them, and before she could process what was happening, he pulled her into an embrace. It shocked her into stillness. He was warm and solid, and she could feel his heart beating hard against her cheek. His arms wrapped around her like he was trying to convince himself she was real. You terrified me tonight, he said quietly into her hair. When you swung that bottle when the gun went off, I thought. He didn't finish. Elena's hands came up slowly, hesitantly, resting against his back. When was the last time someone had held her like this? Like she mattered. Like losing her would actually hurt them. She couldn't remember. I'm sorry, she whispered. Vincenzo pulled back just enough to look at her, his hands moving to frame her face. Don't apologize for being brave. Don't apologize for saving my life. But Cristo, Elena, you could have died. So could you. I'm used to it. His thumb brushed her cheekbone, and the gentleness of it made her chest ache. You're not supposed to be in this world. You're supposed to be safe. I've never been safe, Elena said. Not really. I've just been good at pretending. Something in Vincenzo's expression shifted, softened. Tell me. So she did. Maybe it was the late hour or the adrenaline crash, or the fact that she'd nearly died tonight and nothing seemed to matter anymore. But Elena found herself talking. About growing up in foster care. About her mother's overdose and the homes that followed. Some nightmare she still had trouble thinking about. About aging out of the system and scrambling to survive. About Travis and the debts and the feeling of being buried alive by someone else's choices. Vincenzo listened without interrupting, his hands eventually dropping from her face but catching her hand instead, leading her to the couch. They sat, and he kept her hand in his thumb tracing absent patterns on her palm. "You've been alone your whole life," he said when she finished. "Pretty much. I understand that." Vincenzo stared at their joined hands. "People think men like me have families, loyalty, brotherhood. And we do, in a sense. But it's built on fear and obligation, not trust. I have soldiers who would die for me, but I can't tell them when I'm tired, when I doubt, when I wonder if any of it means anything." He looked up at her. "I've been alone in the middle of an army." Elena's throat tightened. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because you asked me to be honest. Because you've been honest with me." His free hand came up, pushing a strand of hair behind her ear. "Because when you looked at me in that restaurant, you didn't see the monster everyone else sees. You saw someone worth defending." "You're not a monster," Elena said. Vincenzo's laugh was bitter. "You don't know what I've done." "You're right. You don't. But I know you called off your man when I asked. I know you didn't want violence in the restaurant. I know you're keeping me safe now when you could have just let me deal with the consequences." She squeezed his hand. "Monsters don't do those things." "Or maybe," Vincenzo said quietly, "you bring out something in me I thought was dead." The air between them went electric. Elena was suddenly very aware of how close they were sitting, how his eyes had gone dark and intense, how her heart was racing for entirely different reasons now. "The Calvetti family," she said, needing to break the tension before she did something reckless. "Why are they after you?" Vincenzo's expression shuttered slightly, the vulnerable man disappearing behind the crime boss again. But he didn't let go of her hand. "Territory dispute," he said. "The Calvettis control the north side, my family controls the south. There's always been tension, but lately someone's been pushing for war. Attacking my businesses, my people. Tonight was the boldest move yet." "Why tonight? Why there?" "I don't know yet." Frustration edged his voice. "That's what worries me. Someone knew where I'd be. Knew I'd be vulnerable, focused on." He stopped. "On me," Elena finished. "Yes. So this is my fault." "No." Vincenzo turned to face her fully. "This is the fault of men who solve problems with bullets. You did nothing wrong. Except insert myself into your world. Except be brave enough to stand up for what you believe in." His hand tightened on hers. "Don't regret that, Elena. It's the most beautiful thing about you." Her breath caught. The way he looked at her like she was something rare and precious made her feel exposed and cherished all at once. "What happens now?" she asked. "Now you stay here until I neutralize the threat. Few days, maybe a week. Dante will guard you. You'll be safe." "A week?" Lena's mind raced. "I have work. Have bills. I can't just disappear." "Already handled. Marco knows you're taking emergency leave. Your shifts are covered. Your rent for next month is paid." "Vincenzo, I told you I don't want." "It's not charity," he interrupted. "You're in danger because of me. The least I can do is make sure you don't lose everything while you're in hiding." His expression went fierce. "Let me take care of you, Elena. Just this once. Just until you're safe." She wanted to argue, wanted to insist on her independence, her ability to handle her own problems. But she was so tired of fighting everything alone. And the way Vincenzo looked at her, like her safety mattered more than anything, made something in her chest crack open. "Okay," she whispered. Relief washed over his face. "Thank you." They sat in silence for a moment, hands still intertwined. "You should sleep," Vincenzo said finally. "It's late. Where will you sleep?" "I have things to handle. I'll come back tomorrow evening, bring you some of your things from your apartment. You know where I live." A ghost of a smile. "I told you. I make it my business to know." Elena should have found that creepy. Instead, she found it oddly comforting. Someone was paying attention. Someone cared enough to learn about her. She stood reluctantly, suddenly not wanting him to leave. Vincenzo. He looked up at her. Yes, thank you. For keeping your promise. The smile that crossed his face was genuine, reaching his eyes for the first time. Always, cara mia. Always. He left, and Elena stood alone in the silent apartment, her hand still warm from his touch. She should be terrified. Should be planning her escape, her return to normal life. Instead, she found herself thinking about the way Vincenzo had held her. The vulnerability in his voice when he talked about being alone. The fierceness in his eyes when he promised to keep her safe. She was in so much trouble. And not just from the Calvetti family. The next day crawled by with agonizing slowness. Dante brought her breakfast, barely spoke, then resumed his post outside the door. Elena tried to watch television, but every news channel was covering the shooting at Rossi's. They called it gang violence, turf war. No fatalities, several injuries, suspects fled the scene. No mention of her name. No mention of Vincenzo. Marco must have kept his word. She tried to read but couldn't focus. Tried to sleep, but kept replaying the moment the gun went off. The fear in Vincenzo's eyes when he'd thought she was hurt. By the time evening fell and she heard the door open, Elena practically ran to meet him. Vincenzo stood in the entryway with a duffel bag, looking slightly less exhausted than the night before. His eyes found hers, and something in his expression softened. "Brought your things," he said, holding up the bag. "Clothes, toiletries, your laptop. I wasn't sure what else you needed. You went to my apartment yourself?" Elena took the bag. "I wanted to see where you lived." Vincenzo's gaze was steady. "The building is a fire trap. The lock on your door is a joke. You have 17 books stacked beside your bed and photographs of no one on your walls." Should have felt invasive. Instead, it felt intimate. Like he was trying to understand her through the spaces she occupied. "I don't have family for photographs," Elena said quietly. "You do now." The words hung in the air between them, heavy with meaning. "Vincenzo. Have dinner with me," he said. "Here, I'll cook. You promised me one dinner where I could ask you anything. Let me keep you to that promise." Elena's heart stumbled. "You cook." "My mother insisted all her children learn. Said a man who can't feed himself isn't a man." His expression went distant for a moment, sad. "She died 5 years ago. Cancer." "I'm sorry." "So am I." Vincenzo seemed to shake off the memory. "Oh, dinner." Elena knew she should maintain distance. Knew getting closer to this man was dangerous in ways that had nothing to do with bullets. But she was tired of being alone. Tired of being afraid. And Vincenzo, this beautiful dangerous man, looked at her like she was the answer to a question he'd been asking his whole life. "Okay," she said. "But I help cook." His smile could have lit the entire city. They cooked together in the modern kitchen, Vincenzo moving with surprising ease as he prepared pasta from scratch. His hands deft and sure. Elena chopped vegetables and they talked about small things. Music. Book. The way the city changed depending on what neighborhood you were in. Felt normal. Domestic. Like they were just two people getting to know each other. Not a crime boss and the waitress he was protecting. "You're different here," Elena observed, watching him roll out dough. "How so?" "Lighter. Like you're not carrying the weight of an empire." Vincenzo paused, considered. "Maybe because here with you I'm not the boss. I'm just Vincenzo." He looked at her. "When was the last time someone saw me as just a man? When was the last time someone saw me as more than a victim of my circumstances?" Elena countered. Their eyes met across the kitchen island, and the understanding that passed between them felt deeper than words. They ate at the dining table overlooking the city lights, and Vincenzo asked her questions. What did she want from life? What were her dreams before reality crushed them? She could do anything, go anywhere, be anyone. What would she choose? Elena found herself talking about things she'd buried years ago. How she'd wanted to be a teacher once, working with kids in the foster system, giving them the support she never had. How she loved reading because books were the one escape that never failed her. How sometimes she walked through the botanical gardens on her day off and pretended she was somewhere else entirely, somewhere green and peaceful and safe. You could still do those things, Vincenzo said. With what money? What time? What credentials? If those weren't obstacles. If you could start over, completely fresh. Would you? Elena thought about it. I don't know. Everything I've been through made me who I am. If I erase the hard parts, do I erase the strength I found too? Vincenzo reached across the table, taking her hand. You're extraordinary. You know that. I'm a waitress with bad credit and worse taste in men. You're a survivor who hasn't let the world make her cruel. Who still believes in doing the right thing even when it costs her. Who looked at a monster and saw someone worth saving. His grip tightened. That's not ordinary, Elena. That's magic. Her throat went tight with emotion. You're not a monster. Keep telling me that. Maybe one day I'll believe you. They cleaned up together, the comfortable silence of people who didn't need to fill every moment with words. But when Elena reached up to put a glass in the cabinet, Vincenzo was suddenly there. His hand covering hers. His body close enough that she could feel his warmth. Can I ask you something? His voice was low, rough. Elena's heart hammered. Yes. If circumstances were different. If I were just a man and you were just a woman and we met in some ordinary way. Would you give me a chance? She should say no. Should protect herself. Should remember that this was temporary. That once the danger passed they'd return to their separate worlds. But Elena had never been good at doing the smart thing. Yes, she whispered. Vincenzo's eyes went dark. His free hand came up, cupping her face, thumb brushing her lower lip. And if I told you that meeting you has made me feel more alive than I've felt in 10 years? That when I thought you might be hurt, I forgot about strategy and power and control, and all I could think was that I couldn't lose you before I'd even had the chance to know you. I'd say, Elena breathed, that you terrify me. Because I feel the same way, and I don't know how to survive wanting something I can't have. Who says you can't have it? Reality. Our worlds. The fact that someone tried to kill you 2 days ago and I'm only here because I'm in danger. Then let's forget reality, Vincenzo said, leaning closer. Just for tonight. Just for this moment. Let me kiss you, Elena. Let me show you what it feels like to be wanted not despite who you are, but because of it. Every rational part of her screamed warnings. But Elena had spent her whole life being rational, being careful, protecting herself. And where had it gotten her? Alone. Exhausted. Buried under someone else's debts. Maybe it was time to be reckless. Yes, she said. Vincenzo kissed her like she was oxygen and he'd been drowning. His lips claimed hers with a hunger that stole her breath, one hand tangling in her hair while the other pulled her closer. Elena's hands fisted in his shirt, and she kissed him back with all the loneliness and longing she'd been carrying for years. It was devastating, perfect, terrifying. It was everything. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Vincenzo rested his forehead against hers. Cristo, he murmured. You're going to ruin me. Good, Elena said, surprised by her own boldness. You've already ruined me for ordinary men. His laugh was warm and genuine. Stay with me tonight. Just sleep. I just want to hold you. You should say no. Should maintain boundaries. Okay. They lay together in the massive bed, Elena tucked against Vincenzo's chest. His arms wrapped around her like he was afraid she'd disappear. And for the first time in longer than she could remember, Elena felt safe. Not because of where she was, but because of who she was with. Even if it couldn't last. Even if reality would come crashing back. For tonight, she let herself believe in something beautiful. And in the darkness, neither of them saw the shadows gathering. Or the betrayal that was already in motion. Elena woke to sunlight streaming through the floor-to-ceiling windows and the smell of coffee. For a moment she forgot where she was. Then memory crashed back. A shooting. The safe house. Vincenzo. A kiss. She sat up, heat flooding her face. She'd slept in his arms. She'd kissed a mafia boss and wanted more. What was wrong with her? Vincenzo appeared in the doorway, 2 mugs in hand, dressed in dark slacks and a crisp shirt. He looked rested, younger somehow, and when he saw her awake, his smile was genuine. "Coffee," he said, offering her a mug. "You take it black, right? How did you know? I pay attention." He sat on the edge of the bed, careful to maintain distance. "How did you sleep?" "Better than I have in months." Elena accepted the coffee, grateful for something to do with her hands. "You." "The same." They sat in comfortable silence until Vincenzo's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, and his expression shifted, the warmth draining away. "What is it?" Lena asked. "I need to go. Something's happened." He stood, already moving toward the door. "Stay here. Don't leave for any reason. Dante's outside." "Vincenzo, what's wrong?" He paused, looked back at her. "One of my warehouses was hit last night. The Calvettis are escalating." His jaw tightened. "I'll be back tonight. I promise." Then he was gone. The day passed in anxious silence. Elena tried to distract herself with the books Vincenzo had brought from her apartment, but she couldn't focus. She kept thinking about the tension in his shoulders, the worry in his eyes. Around noon, Dante knocked and entered with lunch and a package. "Mr. De Luca had this sent over," he said, handing her a shopping bag. Inside were clothes, expensive ones. Jeans that would actually fit, soft sweaters, even underwear in her exact size. The thoughtfulness of it made her chest ache. She was in trouble. Real serious, emotional trouble. It was almost 6 when the door opened again. Elena looked up expecting Vincenzo, but it was Dante, his expression grim. "There's someone here to see you," he said. "Who?" "He says his name is Travis Whitmore. Says he's your boyfriend." Elena's blood went cold. "What?" Travis walked in behind Dante, and Elena's world tilted. He looked the same. Sandy hair, easy smile, the dimples that had once made her stupid. He wore an expensive suit she knew he couldn't afford. "Hey Ellie," he said, using the nickname she'd once loved and now hated. "Long time no see." "Get out," Elena said, standing. "That's no way to greet your fiancé. Ex-boyfriend. Who disappeared 8 months ago with my money and left me drowning in debt." Her hands clenched into fists. "How did you find me?" Travis's smile widened. "I've always known where you were, baby. Been keeping tabs. Making sure you were okay." "Bullshit." "It's true. And when I heard you got mixed up with Vincenzo De Luca, I got worried." He took a step closer. Dante moved, but Travis held up his hands. "I'm not here to hurt her. I'm here to save her." "From what?" Elena demanded. "From him." Travis's expression went serious. "Ellie, do you know what he is? What he does? The people he's killed?" "I know enough." "Do you know about his wife?" The room went silent. "What wife?" Elena's voice came out strangled. "Didn't tell you about that, did he?" Travis shook his head. "Gianna Moretti. Married her 5 years ago to unite 2 families. She's currently living in Italy, running his operations there. Very much still married. Very much still Mrs. De Luca." "You're lying." "Am I?" Travis pulled out his phone, showed her a photograph. A beautiful dark-haired woman standing next to Vincenzo, his arm around her waist. They were both smiling. The photo was dated 6 months ago. Elena felt sick. "He's using you, Ellie. Whatever he told you, whatever he made you feel, it's a game to him. You're a distraction. Entertainment." Travis's voice softened. "I came to warn you. To get you out before you get hurt worse. Why would you care? You left me with $17,000 in debt. And I've regretted it every day since." Travis's eyes were earnest. "I panicked. I made mistakes. But I never stopped caring about you. I've been working, making money, and I can pay off those debts now. I can give you your life back. You just have to leave with me. Now. Elena's mind was racing. Was Vincenzo married? Had everything been a lie? The vulnerability, the connection, the kiss? I don't believe you, she said, but her voice wavered. Then ask him yourself. Travis gestured at Dante. Call your boss. Ask him about Gianna. See if he denies it. Dante's expression was carefully neutral, which told Elena everything she needed to know. It was true. The betrayal cut deeper than any knife. She'd let herself hope. Let herself believe someone actually saw her, wanted her, cared about her. And it had all been a lie. Elena, Dante said quietly. You should wait for Mr. De Luca to explain. Explain what? That he has a wife. Her voice broke. That everything he said was manipulation. It's not that simple. It never is, Travis said. Look, Ellie, I have a car waiting. Come with me. I'll take you somewhere safe, pay off your debts, and you never have to see De Luca again. You can go back to your life. You mean the life you destroyed? The life I can fix. Travis extended his hand. Please. Let me make this right. Elena looked at his hand. At Dante's worried expression. At the luxury apartment that suddenly felt like a gilded cage. Vincenzo had lied to her. Or at least hidden a massive truth. He'd kissed her, held her, made her feel seen, all while having a wife somewhere else. She'd been so stupid. Again. Fine, she said. I'll go with you. Elena, don't, Dante said, moving to block the door. Mr. De Luca needs to explain. This isn't what you think. Move, Elena said, her voice hard. Or I'll scream that you're holding me against my will. I wonder how the police would react to finding a known criminal's enforcer with a hostage. Dante's jaw clenched, but he stepped aside. Travis's smile was triumphant. Smart girl. Let's go. They were in the elevator when Elena's phone rang. Vincenzo's name flashed on the screen. Don't answer it, Travis said. But Elena did anyway. Elena. Vincenzo's voice was urgent. Where are you? Dante just told me you left with Travis. Your wife, Elena said coldly. Tell me about your wife. Silence. Then, Cristo. Elena, it's not what you think. Gianna and we're not together. It's a political arrangement. One you forgot to mention. I was going to tell you. I just needed time to figure out how to explain. Explain that you lied to me. That you made me feel special when I was just another game. Her voice cracked despite her anger. I trusted you. And you can still trust me. Elena, please don't go with Travis. He's not who you think he is. Neither are you. She hung up. The elevator doors opened to the parking garage, and Travis led her to a black SUV. He opened the passenger door for her, playing the gentleman. Elena climbed in, her heart breaking with every breath. She'd been so close to believing in something real, so close to letting herself hope. Travis got in the driver's seat, started the engine. You made the right choice, he said. But as they pulled out of the garage, Elena caught sight of something in the rearview mirror. Another car following at a distance. And suddenly, Travis's hand was on her wrist, gripping tight. Sorry about this, Ellie, he said, and his voice was different now. Cold. But we're not going to pay off your debts. We're going to use you to destroy Vincenzo De Luca. Fear flooded her system. What? The Calvetti family sends their regards. Travis pulled out a gun, pressed it against her side. And Elena realized she hadn't escaped danger at all. She just walked directly into it. The warehouse smelled like rust and motor oil. Elena's wrists burned where the zip ties cut into her skin. Her arms pulled back around a metal chair that had seen better days. Her jaw ached from where Travis had backhanded her when she tried to grab the wheel. Travis paced in front of her, still holding the gun but more relaxed now, confident. Behind him stood 3 men she didn't recognize, all armed, all watching her with the detached interest of people who hurt others for a living. You know what your problem is, Ellie, Travis said, crouching down to her eye level. You always thought you were better than everyone else. Too good for guys like me. But look where being good got you. Being good didn't get me here, Elena spat. Trusting you did. He laughed. Fair point. Though technically, trusting DeLuca got you here. If you just stayed a waitress, minded your own business, none of this would have happened. What do you want? Me. I want the 50 grand the Calvettis are paying me for delivering you. Travis stood, brushing imaginary dust off his suit. They want leverage against your boyfriend. Apparently, the great Vincenzo DeLuca has a weakness now. You. He's not my boyfriend. No. Then why did he call you 15 times in the last hour? Travis held up her phone, showing the missed calls. Why did he mobilize every soldier in his organization to find you? Why is he currently tearing the city apart looking for one insignificant waitress? Elena's heart clenched despite herself. Vincenzo was looking for her. Even after she'd hung up on him, even after she'd chosen to leave with Travis, he was still trying to find her. He has a wife, she said weakly. Had, Travis corrected. Past tense. Gianna Moretti died 2 years ago. Car accident. Very tragic. The Calvettis didn't mention that part when they gave me the photo and the story to sell you. He smiled at her shocked expression. What, you thought I actually cared about warning you? Please. I saw an opportunity and I took it. Elena felt sick. Vincenzo's wife was dead. The pain she'd glimpsed when he talked about being alone suddenly made terrible sense. And she'd thrown it in his face, accused him of lying, refused to let him explain. Why? She asked. Why get involved with the Calvettis? You're not a criminal. You're just a coward who runs from his problems. Travis's face darkened. You think you know me. You think those 8 months we were together meant you understood who I am. He leaned close, and she could smell expensive cologne trying to mask something rotten. I've been working with the Calvettis for 3 years. Those debts I left you with. That was their money. Money I was supposed to invest in their operations but lost in a bad deal. They were going to kill me until I offered them something better. Information. What information? About Vincenzo's habits. His weaknesses. Took me 2 years of watching, waiting, learning his patterns. He goes to Rossi's every week. Always the same booth. Always alone except for one enforcer. The Calvettis knew if they were going to hit him, that was the place. Travis's smile was ugly. But then you happened. You stepped in, saved his life, and suddenly the untouchable Vincenzo DeLuca had a weakness we could exploit. So the attack at the restaurant was because of me, yeah. I told them when he'd be there. Told them he'd be distracted. He shrugged. Didn't expect you to go all action hero with a wine bottle, but it worked out better this way. Now we have you, and he'll do anything to get you back. Elena pulled against the zip ties, ignoring the pain. He won't come. He's too smart to walk into a trap. Want to bet? Travis pulled out a phone, not hers, and started recording. Say hello to your boyfriend, Ellie. Go to hell. He backhanded her again, harder this time. Elena tasted blood. Let's try that again. Tell Vincenzo you're okay. Tell him you want to see him. No. Travis nodded to one of his men, who stepped forward and pressed a knife against her throat. The blade was cold and sharp, and Elena went very still. Last chance, Travis said, still recording. Be a good girl or things get messy. Elena looked directly at the camera. Vincenzo, don't come. It's a trap. The Calvettis are using me to get to you. Don't. The knife pressed harder, drawing a thin line of blood. Elena gasped. That's enough, Travis said, ending the recording. He'll come. Men like him, they can't stand feeling powerless. Can't stand losing. And he's already lost you once tonight. He sent the video, then tossed the phone aside. Now we wait. The hours crawled by. Elena's arms went numb, then started burning with pins and needles. The cut on her throat stung. Travis got increasingly agitated as time passed, checking his phone obsessively, snapping at his men. Finally, a new voice echoed through the warehouse. "Let her go, Travis." Vincenzo stood in the doorway, backlit by streetlights. He was alone, hands visible and empty, but he moved with the controlled grace of someone extremely dangerous. "You actually came," Travis said, delighted. "And alone. How romantic. I'm here. You have me. Now let Elena go." "That wasn't the deal." A new voice, older, authoritative. A man emerged from the shadows, gray-haired and wearing an expensive suit. "Vincent Calvetti," he introduced himself. "We've been waiting for you, De Luca." More men appeared, surrounding Vincenzo. He didn't react, his eyes fixed on Elena. "Are you hurt?" he asked her. "I'm fine," Elena lied. "She's bleeding," Vincenzo said flatly, and the temperature in the room seemed to drop. "You made her bleed." "A small cut," Calvetti said dismissively. "Nothing compared to what you've cost my family. Territory, money, respect. But now we have you, and your empire will fall." "My empire doesn't matter," Vincenzo said, still looking at Elena. "Let her go and I'll give you everything. The territory, the businesses, all of it." Calvetti laughed. "You'd trade everything for a nobody. A waitress with nothing." "She's not nothing," Vincenzo said quietly. "She's everything." Elena's eyes burned with tears. Even now, even after she doubted him, left with Travis, he was willing to sacrifice everything for her. "How touching," Calvetti said. "But I think we'll keep both of you. Kill you, keep her as leverage to ensure your men cooperate with the transition. Or," Vincenzo said, and now he smiled, cold and sharp, "you could look behind you." Calvetti turned. The warehouse erupted into chaos. Vincenzo's men poured in from every entrance, armed and coordinated. Gunfire exploded through the space. Travis dove for cover, abandoning Elena tied to the chair. Vincenzo moved through the violence like a dancer, swift and lethal. He had a gun now, pulled from somewhere, and he used it with deadly precision. His eyes never left Elena, always aware of where she was, making sure no stray bullets came near her. But there were too many Calvetti soldiers. Even with the element of surprise, Vincenzo's men were outnumbered. That's when Elena saw Travis creeping toward her, gun raised, using her as a shield to escape. "Vincenzo!" she screamed. He turned, saw Travis behind her with the gun to her head. Everything stopped. "Everyone freeze!" Travis shouted. "Or I paint the walls with her brains." The warehouse went still, both sides with weapons raised but not firing. "Smart girl like you," Travis whispered in Elena's ear. "You should have known better than to trust anyone. We're all monsters here. Even your precious Vincenzo." "No," Elena said. "He's not like you. We're exactly alike. We take what we want, use people, destroy lives." The gun pressed harder against her temple. "Only difference is he dresses it up prettier." Elena met Vincenzo's eyes across the warehouse. She saw agony there, fear, love. And she saw him mouth two words, "Trust me." Elena took a breath. Then she threw her head back as hard as she could, smashing into Travis's nose. He screamed, stumbled. The gun wavered. Single shot rang out. Travis crumpled to the ground, a hole in his forehead, eyes vacant. Vincenzo stood with his gun still raised, smoke curling from the barrel. Then the Calvetti soldiers opened fire, and Vincenzo went down. Elena screamed as she saw him fall, blood spreading across his white shirt. His men returned fire, and the warehouse became a war zone again. Dante appeared beside her, cutting the zip ties, pulling her to safety. But all Elena could see was Vincenzo on the ground, not moving, blood pooling beneath him. "No, no, no," she sobbed, fighting against Dante's grip. "Let me go. I have to help him." "He's gone," Dante said grimly, dragging her toward the exit. "We have to get you out." "He's not gone." Elena struggled harder. Vincenzo. But he didn't answer. Didn't move. And as Dante pulled her from the warehouse into the night, Elena felt her heart shatter completely. She'd lost him. Lost the one person who'd ever made her feel truly seen. And it was all her fault. If she'd just trusted him. If she'd just let him explain. But now it was too late. Vincenzo was gone. Elena sat in the emergency room, staring at her hands. They were still stained with Vincenzo's blood from when she'd finally broken free from Dante and run back into the warehouse. She'd found him unconscious but breathing, pressed her hands against the wound in his chest, and screamed for help until the paramedics arrived. That was 6 hours ago. The doctors wouldn't tell her anything. She wasn't family. She was nobody to him officially. Just a waitress who'd been in the wrong place at the wrong time. Dante stood guard nearby, having refused to leave her side. Around them, the hospital buzzed with activity. Police had come and gone, taking statements. Elena had told them nothing useful. She'd been kidnapped, she was rescued, she didn't see who shot whom. The code of silence that protected Vincenzo's world had somehow become hers too. Miss Brooks. Elena looked up. A doctor stood before her, surgical scrubs rumpled, exhaustion lining his face. Is he alive? The words came out cracked and desperate. He's asking for you, the doctor said simply. Elena was moving before he finished speaking. Vincenzo lay in a private room, machines beeping steadily around him. His chest was bandaged, for lines running into his arms. But his eyes were open, alert, and when he saw her he smiled. Fearless girl, he said, voice rough. Elena burst into tears. She crossed to his bed in 2 strides, wanting to throw herself into his arms but afraid of hurting him. Instead she grabbed his hand, holding it like an anchor. I thought you were dead, she sobbed. I thought I'd lost you. Takes more than one bullet to kill me, Vincenzo said, squeezing her hand weakly. Though it was close. If you hadn't come back, hadn't stopped the bleeding. I'm sorry, Elena said. I'm so sorry. I should have trusted you. Should have let you explain about Gianna. No. His expression grew serious. I should have told you from the beginning. Gianna and we were arranged. Political alliance. We respected each other but there was no love. When she died I felt guilt, not grief. Guilt that I couldn't protect her. Guilt that I was relieved to be free. His thumb brushed over her knuckles. I haven't been with anyone since. Haven't wanted to. Until you. Travis said she was still alive. Showed me a photo. Old photo. Travis was good at manipulation. Vincenzo's jaw tightened. The Calvettis used him well. He's dead. I know. Dante told me. Vincenzo studied her face. Does that bother you? That I killed him? Elena thought about it. Travis had betrayed her, kidnapped her, held a gun to her head. But she'd once thought she loved him. No, she said honestly. He made his choice. You protected me. He paused. Is it over? The Calvettis. Almost. Vincent Calvetti is in custody. His organization is scrambling. My men are cleaning up the rest. He shifted, winced. But Elena, you need to understand something. This is my life. Violence, danger, constant threats. Today won't be the last time someone tries to use you against me. I know. You deserve better. Deserve normal. Safe. I deserve, Elena said firmly, to make my own choices. And I choose you. Vincenzo's eyes searched hers. Even knowing what I am. I know who you are, Elena corrected. You're the man who came alone into a warehouse full of enemies to save me. Who was willing to give up everything for my safety. Who held me while I slept and made me feel safe for the first time in my life. She leaned closer. You're the man I love. Vincenzo went very still. Elena. I love you, she repeated. And if you're about to give me some noble speech about letting me go for my own good, save it. I'm not going anywhere. Thank God, he breathed and pulled her down for a kiss. It was gentle, careful of his injuries, but full of promise. When they broke apart, Vincenzo was smiling in a way that transformed his entire face. "I love you too," he said. "My fearless girl who refuses to be intimidated. Even by me. Especially by you." A knock at the door interrupted them. Dante entered, expression urgent. "Boss, we have a problem." "What now?" Vincenzo asked. "There's someone here. Says he has information about who's really behind the Calvetti attacks." "Who?" Dante hesitated. "Says his name is Marcus De Luca. Says he's your brother." Vincenzo went rigid. "That's impossible. Marcus died 3 years ago." "Apparently not," Dante said. "And boss, he says if you don't see him, more people are going to die. Starting with Miss Brooks." Elena felt Vincenzo's hand tighten on hers, saw the storm brewing in his eyes. "Bring him in," Vincenzo said quietly. "But Dante, if he threatens her again, kill him." "With pleasure." As Dante left, Elena looked at Vincenzo. "Your brother, my younger brother, supposedly died in a boat accident 3 years ago. We never found the body." His expression was grim. "If he's alive, if he's been behind this, then we face it together," Elena said firmly. Vincenzo looked at her, this woman who'd been thrown into his violent world and somehow remained unbroken, who chose to stay despite everything. "Together," he agreed. The door opened again. A man walked in who looked like a darker mirror of Vincenzo. Same sharp features, same dark hair, but his eyes were cold where Vincenzo's held warmth. "Hello, brother," Marcus said. "We need to talk about the future of our family. And your girlfriend's role in it." Elena stood straighter, chin raised, meeting Marcus's cold gaze without flinching. She'd faced down one De Luca brother. She could handle another. The war wasn't over. But now, she and Vincenzo would fight it together. And together they were unstoppable. Marcus De Luca stood at the foot of his brother's hospital bed like a ghost made flesh. 3 years of believing him dead, and here he was, wearing an expensive suit and a smile that never reached his eyes. "You look surprised, Vincenzo," Marcus said. "Didn't expect your little brother to rise from the dead?" "Why?" Vincenzo's voice was deadly quiet. "Why let us think you were dead?" "Because being dead gave me freedom. Freedom to build my own empire without your shadow hanging over me. Without mother comparing us constantly. Without you being the perfect eldest son I could never measure up to." Elena felt Vincenzo's hand trembling in hers, but his face remained calm. "So you started a war," Vincenzo said. "Used the Calvettis as puppets." "The Calvettis were tools. Stupid, greedy tools." Marcus moved closer, and Dante's hand went to his weapon. Marcus noticed and laughed. "Relax, Dante. If I wanted my brother dead, he'd already be gone. The bullet that hit him, that was meant to wound, not kill. I'm not a complete monster." "Could have fooled me," Elena said. Marcus's attention shifted to her, and his cold eyes seemed to dissect her. "Ah, the famous Elena. The waitress who tamed the beast. Do you know what you've cost me?" "I don't particularly care." "You should." Marcus pulled out a chair, sat down like he was visiting a sick friend. "My brother was perfect. Cold, calculating, focused only on business. Then you appeared and suddenly he has a weakness. Suddenly he's making mistakes, getting emotional, taking risks. You humanized him. That's a bad thing." Lena asked. "For what I had planned?" "Yes." Marcus leaned back. "See, I was going to let the Calvettis and Vincenzo destroy each other. Step in when both sides were weakened. Take control of everything. But then you saved his life. Made him stronger somehow. Gave him something to fight for beyond territory and power." "Get to the point," Vincenzo said. "And you're willing to dismantle your organization." "Already done. My legitimate businesses will continue. Everything else ends today." The agent looked skeptical. "Just like that? You're walking away from organized crime?" Vincenzo's eyes found Elena. I have something more important to protect now. It took 3 more hours of negotiation, but finally the deal was struck. Vincenzo would testify. Marcus would go to prison for life. And Vincenzo and Elena would be free. As the agents left, Elena sat on the edge of Vincenzo's bed. You gave up everything, she said. No, Vincenzo corrected, pulling her close. I gave up nothing that mattered. The power, the fear, the empire, none of it made me feel alive. You did that. You made me remember what it's like to be human. So what now? Lena asked. You're not a crime boss anymore. I'm not a waitress. Who are we? We're 2 people who survived the worst and chose each other anyway. He kissed her forehead. We can be whoever we want now. Together. Always together. Rebecca Morris appeared in the doorway, a little girl holding her hand. Sophie, her daughter, rescued by Dante's men from one of Marcus's warehouses. Thank you, Rebecca said, tears in her eyes. Thank you for keeping your promise. Elena smiled at the little girl, who was clutching a teddy bear. Everyone deserves to be saved. As Rebecca and Sophie left, Vincenzo squeezed Elena's hand. You saved me first, he said. That night in the restaurant, you saved me from becoming like Marcus. Cold, alone, consumed by power. You saved me too, Elena said. From a life of just surviving instead of living. They sat in comfortable silence, watching the sun set over the city through the hospital window. Tomorrow would bring challenges. Trials, testimony, rebuilding their lives from scratch. But tonight they had each other. And that was everything. 6 months later, Elena stood in front of a classroom full of teenagers, every one of them a foster kid like she'd once been. The youth center had hired her the moment she'd finished her accelerated teaching certification. No questions asked about the gap in her resume or the tabloid stories that had followed the trial. All right, she said, setting down her coffee. Who wants to tell me what courage means to them? A girl in the back, all defensive posture and suspicious eyes, raised her hand. Not being afraid. Interesting answer. Anyone disagree? A boy near the window spoke up. Being afraid but doing it anyway. Lena smiled. That's closer to my definition. I've been terrified more times than I can count. But courage isn't the absence of fear. It's deciding that something else is more important than fear. The classroom door opened quietly. Vincenzo stepped in, carrying a box of donuts. The kids immediately perked up. Mr. V brought donuts, someone shouted. Elena shook her head, smiling. You're spoiling them. They're teenagers. They're always hungry. Vincenzo set the box on her desk, kissed her cheek. How's the lesson going? We're discussing courage. Ah, your specialty. He turned to the class. Did she tell you about the time she stood up to a room full of armed men with nothing but determination? No. Several voices chorused. Tell us. That's not appropriate for school, Elena said firmly, but she was fighting a smile. The edited version then, Vincenzo conceded. Your teacher is the bravest person I know. She taught me that standing up for what's right is always worth it, even when it's dangerous. Is that why you left your family business? The suspicious girl asked. The room went quiet. Everyone knew who Vincenzo had been. The trial had been all over the news. Yes, Vincenzo said simply. Ms. Brooks showed me there was a better way to live. A better man to be. But you were rich, another student said. Powerful. Why give that up? Vincenzo looked at Elena, and his expression softened. Because power means nothing if you can't look at yourself in the mirror. And money can't buy the things that actually matter. Trust, love, peace. He paused. Freedom to be yourself instead of what everyone expects you to be. The kids absorbed this in silence. These were children who'd been told their whole lives that they'd never amount to anything, that their circumstances defined them. Hearing from someone who'd walked away from everything for something better meant more than any textbook lesson. All right, donuts after you finish your essays, Elena said. And Mr. V needs to get to his own job. Vincenzo now ran a legitimate security company, employing many of his former soldiers in legal protection services. It was less lucrative than his previous empire, but he came home without blood on his hands, and that was worth everything. "See you tonight," he said, kissing her once more. "Maya and James are coming for dinner. I remember. I'm making that pasta you taught me." As he left, one of the boys called out, "Miss Brooks, are you gonna marry him?" Elena felt heat rise to her cheeks. "Focus on your essays." But she was smiling. That evening, their apartment was full of warmth and laughter. Not the cold luxury high-rise from before, but a modest two-bedroom in a safe neighborhood, decorated with second-hand furniture and photos they'd taken together. Real. Comfortable. Maya was regaling them with hospital stories while her boyfriend James, a detective who'd helped during the trial, laughed at her impressions of difficult doctors. "I still can't believe you two ended up together," Maya said, gesturing at Elena and Vincenzo with her wine glass. "A waitress and a former mob boss. It's like a movie. A very dramatic movie," Elena agreed. "With too much violence and not enough sleep. But a happy ending," Vincenzo added, his hand finding hers under the table. "Speaking of endings," James said, "Marcus took the plea deal. Life without parole. It's really over." Vincenzo nodded slowly. He made his choices. They'd visited Marcus once, in prison. He'd been smaller somehow, the cold arrogance replaced with bitter resignation. He'd asked Vincenzo why he'd thrown everything away for, in his words, a nobody. Vincenzo had simply said, "Because she made me somebody worth being." They hadn't gone back. After dinner, Maya and James left with promises to return next week. Elena was washing dishes when Vincenzo wrapped his arms around her from behind. "Leave them," he murmured against her neck. "They'll get crusty." "I don't care." He turned her around, and his expression was serious. "I need to ask you something." Elena's heart skipped. "Okay." Vincenzo reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. "Elena Brooks," he said, dropping to one knee right there in their tiny kitchen. "You saved my life in every way that matters. You showed me that strength isn't about fear but about love. You refused to let me be less than I could be. And you chose to stay even when leaving would have been safer." He opened the box, revealing a simple diamond ring, nothing ostentatious, just elegant and real. "Will you marry me? Will you keep choosing us every day, no matter what comes?" Elena was crying, but she was also laughing. "Yes. Of course, yes." He slipped the ring on her finger and stood, pulling her into a kiss that said everything words couldn't. When they broke apart, Elena said, "You know this means you're stuck with me now." "That's the plan." He grinned. "My fearless girl." "Your future wife," she corrected. They stood there in their small kitchen, holding each other, and Elena thought about how far they'd come. From that moment in Rossi's when she'd stepped between violence and principle to this. From loneliness to love. From survival to life. "Hey," she said suddenly. "We should tell my kids. They'll be so excited." "Our kids," Vincenzo corrected. "I'm basically their donut dealer now." Elena laughed. "True. Though maybe ease up on the donuts. You're undermining my authority." "Never. Spoiling them is my job. Being tough but fair is yours. It's a good balance. Like us." "Exactly like us." Later, as they lay in bed, Elena's ring catching the moonlight through the window, she thought about courage again. How it had started with 3 words, "Don't you dare me," and led to this. A life she never could have imagined. A love she never thought she deserved. "What are you thinking about?" Vincenzo asked, pulling her closer. "How different everything could have been if I'd kept my mouth shut that night." "We would have found each other anyway," he said with certainty. "Some things are meant to be. You believe in fate now. I believe in us. That's enough." And it was. Outside, the city hummed with its usual chaos. But inside their small apartment, Two people who'd survived the worst and chosen love anyway built their own version of happily ever after. Not perfect, not without challenges, but real. And theirs. And more than enough. Elena fell asleep smiling, Vincenzo's arms around her. Her ring a promise of all the tomorrows to come. Tomorrow she'd teach her kids about courage and choices. Tomorrow Vincenzo would build his business higher. Tomorrow they'd plan a wedding that would somehow have to include teenage foster kids, former enforcers, and at least one nurse who'd learned to spot a fake cardiac emergency. But tonight they were just Elena and Vincenzo. Two souls who'd found each other in the chaos and refused to let go. And that was everything. If you've made it this far in our story, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Where are you watching from? What did you think of Elena and Vincenzo's journey? And if you haven't subscribed yet, please hit that button now so you don't miss the next story. Remember, sometimes the greatest courage is simply refusing to give up on love, even when the whole world tells you it's impossible. Until next time, beautiful souls, keep being brave.